I convinced my parents to stop my grandpa from moving in with us, but now I'm paying the price for my selfishness. When my grandpa first suggested moving in with us, I was furious. I knew it would change everything. My freedom, my space, my entire life. I mean, I loved him, but I wasn't ready to give up my privacy for someone who had his own place. My parents, on the other hand, thought it was a great idea. They said it was our duty to take care of him now that he was getting older, that it was the right thing to do. But all I could see was how much it would inconvenience me. I couldn't imagine sharing my life with someone who'd constantly need help, who'd always be around. So, I did everything I could to convince my parents to say no. I told them I was too busy with school, that it would be too much pressure on all of us. I exaggerated how small our house was, how Grandpa's presence would make it even more cramped. I played up the noise, the mess, the inevitable stress that would come with him living with us. Eventually, my parents agreed. It was best for everyone if Grandpa stayed in his own place. At first, I felt relieved, even a little victorious. I got to keep my space, my routine. But as weeks turned into months, I started to notice things changing. My grandpa, who had always been so lively, started to seem lonely. He stopped calling as much, stopped asking to visit. My parents noticed too, and I could see the guilt in their eyes whenever they talked about him. They knew he was struggling, but they didn't push the issue again. They didn't want to upset me. Then, one night, we got a call that shattered everything. My grandpa had collapsed in his home, and he'd been lying there for hours before a neighbor found him. He was alive, but barely. The doctor said it was a close call. If he'd been found any later, he wouldn't have made it. The guilt hit me like a ton of bricks. I realized, in that moment, how selfish I had been. If only I'd let him move in with us, he wouldn't have been alone. He wouldn't have almost died. The worst part was that my grandpa didn't blame me. When he woke up in the hospital, all he did was smile weakly and say he was fine, that I shouldn't worry. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I had failed him, that my desire for comfort had almost cost him his life. My parents decided immediately that Grandpa was moving in with us as soon as he was out of the hospital. This time, I didn't argue. I wanted to make it right, to do whatever I could to make up for what had happened. But as Grandpa settled into our home, the guilt only grew. I watched him struggle with simple tasks, saw the sadness in his eyes whenever he thought no one was looking. I knew he missed his independence, his old life. And I knew I had taken that away from him. Living with Grandpa was harder than I expected. It wasn't just the constant care he needed, or the way our house seemed to shrink with every passing day. It was the weight of knowing that I had pushed him away when he needed us most. I tried to make it up to him, spending time with him, helping him with whatever he needed. But no matter what I did, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was too late, that the damage had been done. Over time, though, something changed. My grandpa, who had been so quiet and withdrawn, started to open up again. He began telling stories about his life, laughing more, enjoying the little things. I started to see how much he still had to give, how much I had almost missed out on. And slowly, the guilt began to lift. I realized that while I couldn't undo the past, I could make the most of the time we had left. My grandpa and I grew closer than ever, and I learned to cherish every moment with him. I saw the value in family, in the sacrifices we make for each other. And I understood that my selfishness had almost cost me something priceless. But in the end, I was given a second chance, to love, to care, and to be the person my grandpa needed me to be.